Welcome back, Math 1 people. Hope everybody's doing well. Today, we're going to be looking at box plots. They're sometimes called box and whisker plots. It's another way of displaying data like dot plots and histograms. They display things a little bit differently, but before we get into box and whiskers, we have to talk about something called quartiles. So what we're going to do is take this rectangle and divide it into 4 parts. The easiest way to do this, first of all, is just divide it down the middle. Okay, so there's the middle of the rectangle. Now we're going to take each of the remaining sides and divide them in their middle. Here we go. And the end result is that we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 different pieces of rectangles here. So that would be considered 4 quarters. Because there's 4 quarters in a dollar. There's now 4 parts of this rectangle. Okay, this first group, this would be the first quarter of the rectangle. And then the line that separates it from its buddy is Q1. And that Q stands for kind of a fancy word called quartile. And all a quartile is a fancy word for the line in between the 2 quarters. Now that quarter, that's 25% of the rectangle. So think again, a quarter is 25 cents of a dollar, 25% of the rectangle. Okay, this new guy, this next guy over here, the first one's called the first quarter. This new guy is the second quarter. Whoa. And this, we had Q1. This is Q2. And that Q, again, that's a kind of this fancy word called quartile. And it just means the dividing line. It means where the different sections of the rectangle are split. Okay, and again, each one of them is 25% of the rectangle. This guy here is the third quarter. Not super imaginative with the names. This is Q3. Q again meaning quartile. Just a fancy word for the dividing line. And in case you haven't guessed already, this guy back here is the fourth quarter. Okay, so you can think of it like a football game or a basketball game. So how many dividing lines did we need? How many cuts? We had the middle guy. We had Q1, we had Q3. So those are the only dividing lines we need. We had 3 quartiles, or 3 dividing lines. Okay. Now those dividing lines mean something in statistics. The middle one, we've already talked about that. The middle one is actually the median if this was a group of numbers. Okay. And then Q1 is kind of like the middle or the median of the lower data set or the lower group. Q3 is like the divider or the median or the middle of the upper data set, or the upper group. Okay, so think of the rectangle as we're doing this with the numbers. Okay. So, in order to find these funny keywords with numbers, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put these numbers in order. Because the first thing we're going to find is we're going to find the median. And in order to find the median, we've got to put them in order. So we've got a 3, 4, 4, here comes a 5, and there's a 6, and then a couple of 8s. So we've got them all in order. There they are. Okay, now remember, we're looking for the median in the beginning. I mentioned that a minute ago. And the reason we're looking for the median, first of all, it's really easy to find. So we're just going to kind of walk our way in and find whatever number happens to be dead center. It is the number 5. Okay, when you found the median, you have found Q2. You found the middle point of the data. 50% of the data is to its left, the other 50% of the data is to its right. So that's the median. Okay, it's the median. It is also called Q2. Okay, so it has two different names. Now, once we've found the median, what we're going to do, we're going to find Q1 and Q3 by finding two more medians. They're kind of medians. They're medians for all the leftover numbers. Okay, and what that means is that whoever the median is, we're not going to play with him. Okay, he doesn't count. He's already spoken for. So we're just going to look at 3, 4, 4. That's the lower group. And then we're also going to look at 6, 8, 8 in a second. So see how I'm not using the 5. I'm just looking at all the numbers left over. So that guy, that 4, is in the middle of the lower group. That's Q1. So you're just finding a couple medians, 3 of them actually. Okay, there's your lower group. That's the middle. And then the upper group. Again, don't use the 5 because he's already taken. Okay, we're just going to use the 6, 8, 8. And that 8 right there, the first 8, that is Q3. And just like that, we have split the data into 4 quadrants. And we have 3 quartiles. Now, the other thing we're going to do with these quartiles is something called the interquartile range. It is usually abbreviated because nobody wants to spell that out. It's abbreviated IQR, interquartile range. Now, a normal range is just the start to the end number. That's the normal range, okay? This is a little smaller range, okay? This is the range of the inside quartiles, okay? It's basically going to ask how far is it from Q3 to Q1. And to find that out, you subtract them. So it's actually a really easy number to find. So we're going to find the interquartile range. Okay? And it's from quartile to quartile. So not the whole thing. That's the big range. Okay? This is a smaller range. So the IQR, remember, it's going to be Q3 minus Q1. So those outside dividers. Okay? Which means we have 8 minus 4. We'll get the paper back in front of the camera here. So we have 8, and then we're going to subtract 4. And we get 4. And what that 4 is, it's the range of 50% of the data, the middle 50% of the data. So you can kind of look and see how consistent that is. Okay, so it's the middle range of the middle 50% of the data. Covers 2 quarters in there. Okay, let's try it again with one more group. These guys are already in order, so we didn't have to put them in order. So we're going straight for the median. So I'm just walking my 2 pins right into the middle, and uh-oh. The middle is in between 2 numbers. There isn't a single number that is a median. The middle is in between them. So in order to find the median, we have to take the average or the mean of those 2 numbers that are closest to it. So we're going to add the 5 and the 6. And then once we get a total for that, then we're going to divide. Don't divide too early. So 5 plus 6 is 11. And we're going to divide that by 2 and get 5.5. That's the median. It is also Q2. So we now know what Q2 is. Okay. So they were in order, we found the median, and now we're going to find the leftover numbers. We've got a lower group and an upper group. This time we are using the 5 because the 5 is not the median. The median is 5.5. So last time we didn't use that middle number, but this time that 5 isn't the median. It's still leftover. The median is 5.5. So we're going to use that. Ooh, and 3 right there, that middle 3, that is the median of the lower group. That's Q1. So they go in order. 1 is the lowest, and then Q3 is for the biggest group, and Q2 is right in the middle. So this biggest group has Q3, and again, we're going to use the 6 that's next to the median, because he isn't the median. So basically, you use all the numbers that aren't the median. All right, we found Q3. So they're really easy to find once you know what you're looking for. Okay, we've got Q1, we've got Q2, we've got Q3, and they're really good dividing lines for where all your data is. They divide it up into 25% chunks. Okay, and then the IQR is basically how far is it from the first divider to the last divider. And that's easy. You just subtract them. 7 minus 3. So once again, we have an IQR of 4. And that's how you work with quartiles. All right, it is time now to go forward and use our quartiles to make the Box and Whisker. It is a visual picture display. A lot of redundant words in there. We're going to use the same data points, but we're going to make a picture kind of like a histogram or a dot plot. And we're going to run the data quartiles one more time, just so you see how it works. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get them all in order, because the first thing you do is find the median. So here we are finding the median. Incoming, right there in the center, there is the median. I'm going to circle it because whatever the median is, we don't use it when we find the other Qs, the Q1 and the Q3. Okay, so we found Q2, and that number does not get used. Okay, so here's the lower group, so we're going to use just the numbers that are not circled, and we find the middle, and that's Q1. Q2 is dead center, and then we're going to find the middle of this upper group, and there is Q3. All right, we've got our 1, 2, 3 quartiles, 3 of them. Okay, now we're going to start making a picture. First of all, we're going to make a number line from the lowest to the highest. And having them in order helps. The lowest is a 3, and the highest is an 8. So we're going to make a nice straight number line. The rest of this is not going to be super exact, and your number lines don't have to be super nice and straight either. I don't know, I happen to have a ruler handy. All right, and then we're going to number it from the lowest, starting with 3, and we're going to go all the way up to the highest. Okay, and we're going to catch all the numbers in between. Now, you don't have to go in order 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we've got 3 to 8, but you can do it by 2s, for example. You could count by 2s. You could also count by 5s if you have a bigger range. So if there's more numbers and you're looking at really long lines, you can go by 2s or 5s. Okay. All right, now our quartiles get involved. There's 3 of them. Okay, and we're going to make vertical lines, just short ones, above the quartile where their numbers are. So Q1 is on a 4, so above the 4, I'm just going to make an up and down line, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing at the 5 where Q2 is. Okay, just an up and down line. And then Q3 is way at the other end over the 8, so you're just making lines. Okay, and then we're going to connect the ends of the line to make a rectangle. And that is the box of the Box and Whisker plot. Okay, it's made out of the quartiles. Okay, median is in the center. Q1 is at one end, Q3 is at the other end, and together that box contains 50% of your data. So it's a fairly good typical representation of the data in that box. All right, let's put more of the graph together. Note the median is going to be inside the rectangle somewhere. Okay, we're going to put a dot over the highest point and the lowest point, just like we did with those lines for the quartiles. So our highest point is 8 and our lowest is 3. So above the 8, I'm just going to draw a dot. Now this one happens to be on the rectangle. That's a little unusual. Okay, what is more typical is what this 3 is going to do. So above the 3, I'm just going to draw a dot. Not a line, but a dot. Okay, and what we're going to do now is where the whisker part of Box and Whisker comes in, we're going to connect the dots back to the box. We're going to say, haha, you are now connected. Congratulations. Now, the dot over the 8 does not connect back because he's already on the box, so he just sits there. So if they're on the box, just let them sit there. And that is a box and whisker plot. These things can be fairly popular with people who work with statistics a lot because they show very quickly something called the Big Five. Okay, and we'll be working with this a little bit more later, but there are 5 statistics these guys show really easily. They show the lowest point, that's the dot on the end, and they show the highest point, that's the other dot on the end. Okay, they show those really easily. They show the median, that's the line right in the middle of the rectangle. Well, it's not the middle, but it's inside the rectangle. And they show Q1 and Q3. Those are the ends of the rectangle. So without messing around with all the data, you can look at a picture and get these 5 statistics. Q1 and Q3 count as different statistics. You can get these 5 statistics really, really quickly. And they're important statistics for things that will, if you go into statistics, you'll use them later. So where is the IQR in all of this? Well, remember the IQR is how far is it from Q1 to Q3? And that's the rectangle. So the IQR is basically the length of the rectangle. One end of the rectangle, 8, minus the other end, 4. So even though you have to do a tiny bit of work to get the IQR, it's actually really easy to get from a box and whisker plot. So they can be pretty popular. All right, next data set, this one. See if you can do this on your own. So pause the video, try to get it on your own, and then when you're ready, resume the video and see if you were right. Okay, time to find out if you were correct. So I'm going to jot down over here some of the steps to making a box and whisker. I know we have the steps written on the worksheet or on the notes, but sometimes it helps to jot down quick notes. So we're finding the quartiles, okay? The quartiles, you start with the median, and the quartiles just divide the list into 4 chunks. Okay, this median is in between numbers, so we have to find their mean, just the 2 that it's in between. Make sure you get the total of the addition before you divide, okay? All right, we've got a median of 5.5. Okay, I'm going to circle him. He will not be used when we find the other dividers, but this 5 will, because this 5 is not the median. If he's not the median, he gets involved. Okay, we've got another median, minor median, Q1. We're going to come over here. We're going to find our other Q over here. Okay, and this is Q3. So there are 3 lines that divide the data into quarters. And the lines are called quartiles, kind of the fancy name. Okay, we're now going to make a number line. So we've got all the important stuff taken care of. We're going to make a number line from the smallest to the biggest, little to big. Our smallest number is a 1. Our biggest number is an 8. So first of all, mainly because I have a ruler, and since I have a ruler, I'm going to use the ruler. We're going to make a straight line. On this ruler, though, I'm actually going to do this because it's all the way from 1 to 8. I'm going to go ahead and do this by 2s, and I'll fill in the 1 dots for those of you who maybe did your box and whiskers going by 1s. But just to show you, it can be done with 2s as well. So you don't have to stick to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't have to stick to totally consecutive numbers. You can count by 2s, 3s, 5s, 10s, whatever you need to for bigger ranges. All right, we're now going to make the box. So the box comes first in the box and whiskers, and the box is made by the quartiles. That's why we wanted them. So with these quartiles, we're going to make vertical lines over the numbers. So Q1 is over a 3, Q2 is over a 5.5. So we're kind of guesstimating where that is. So kind of like histograms, box and whiskers aren't 100% accurate. You can't tell with certainty that, oh, that median is at 5.5. It might be 5.56. Okay, so they're not as accurate as, say, a dot plot, but they give a lot of details very quickly. Okay, the last part is we're going to put the whiskers on, and to do that, we make dots. So we're going to make a dot for the max and a dot for the min. So the very smallest number, which is a 1, find the 1 and put a dot. And then find the max, which is an 8, and we're going to put a dot. And this is a more typical box and whiskers where the dots are not on the rectangle. And we're going to connect them back to the rectangle, and that makes the whiskers. So it's like the box grew whiskers, just one whisker on each side. He didn't grow a lot of whiskers because, I mean, it is only a rectangle. It's not a cat, so it doesn't really need that many whiskers. All right, and there is your box and whisker plot. Contains data that you can see very quickly without looking at the numbers. The big 5 statistics. There's the lowest point and the highest point. There's Q1, Q2, and Q3. And the interquartile range, the IQR, is from end of rectangle to end of rectangle. So all of the statistics are there, and you can see them pretty easily. Congratulations!